Travelers buy travel insurance for one reason. If the trip falls apart, they want their money back. Then a pandemic canceled millions of trips. The claims poured in, and the insurers said no. And in case after case, when policyholders sued, the courts agreed with the insurers. The policies, it turned out, did not cover what people thought they covered. One company in this story, Allianz Global Assistance, did write a large check, $19.75 million, but not for denying a single pandemic claim. It paid to settle a lawsuit over a fee it had been charging for a service that was not even insurance. Travel insurance is one of the few products where the company writes the rules. The fine print decides the outcome, and a court will usually back the company over the customer. That is not an accusation. It is how the contracts are built, and it is regulated state by state rather than federally, which means there is no single national watchdog reading these policies for you. The reading is your job, and almost nobody does it before they click buy. The job of this video is to show you where the traps are before you click buy, so the policy you pay for is the policy you think you are getting. Today we are going through 6 travel insurance traps drawn from class actions, court rulings, and state insurance regulators that explain why so many travelers feel betrayed at exactly the moment they file a claim. No brand on this list paid us. This is purely our research. Welcome to The Hidden Boarding Pass. One note before the list. Travel insurance is regulated state by state, and a denied claim is not proof a company did anything illegal. Most of what follows is about the gap between what travelers assume they bought and what the contract actually says. But that gap is where the money disappears, and a few of these companies crossed from hard fine print into documented lawsuits and regulator findings. 6 is the trip protection checkbox at checkout. This is the trap most travelers fall into first because it is the easiest. You book a flight, a cruise, or a hotel, and right there at the end is a box that says protect your trip for a small fee. You click it because it is there and it feels responsible. That checkbox is the single least comparison-shopped insurance product in travel. It is usually underwritten by one of the same handful of companies in this video, priced for the seller's convenience rather than your coverage, and bought in the one moment you are least likely to read it. The booking site earns a commission on it, which is part of why it is sitting there in the first place. You are not being offered the best policy for your trip. You are being offered the policy that was most convenient for the seller to place in front of you. How that box is presented has already drawn regulators. A joint investigation by the Missouri Department of Insurance and the Minnesota Department of Commerce found that one travel insurer, sold through a booking site, routinely made customers affirmatively opt out of the insurance, meaning the charge was added unless you noticed it and removed it. We will come back to that company at number 1 because the regulators did. For now, the rule is simple. The Department of Transportation already requires airlines to make add-ons opt-in, meaning they cannot charge you for an extra unless you choose it. Travel insurance bought at checkout is the place that protection is weakest. For the traveler who clicks yes at checkout because it is right there and it is only $20, that box is the front door to every other problem on this list. 5 is Generali Global Assistance, a name many travelers also know by its older brand, CSA Travel Protection. When the pandemic hit, Generali became the subject of multiple proposed class actions alleging it wrongfully denied trip cancellation claims. The argument in those cases is striking. In one, Robbins versus Generali, a customer bought a policy in early February 2020, weeks before the lockdowns, then had to cancel when a stay-at-home order was issued. Generali's position, according to the complaint, was that because the policy was purchased after late January, the outbreak was already a foreseeable event, and a foreseeable event is not covered. Instead of refunding premiums, the complaint says, the company offered vouchers for future trips with rebooking deadlines. These are allegations in class actions, not proven findings, and that distinction matters, but the pattern is the lesson. A foreseeable event exclusion is the kind of clause that can turn the exact crisis you were worried about into the reason your claim is denied. For the traveler who bought a policy in good faith weeks before a crisis and was then told the crisis was foreseeable, the fine print did the work the marketing never mentioned. 4 is TripMate. and most people who have a TripMate policy never chose it by name. TripMate is an administrator. It is the company behind a lot of the protection plans that cruise lines and tour operators sell you at their own checkout, with the actual insurance underwritten by United States Fire Insurance Company. A proposed class action alleges that TripMate and U.S. Fire refused to refund the prorated post-departure portion of premiums after trips were canceled. Money paid for risk the companies never actually took on. Beyond that case, the documented complaint record is heavy. Consumers have reported denials on small claims and denials that invoked pre-existing condition clauses their own doctors disputed, with some taking their complaints to the Missouri Insurance Commission. Again, the lawsuit is an allegation and the complaints are individual, but the structural warning is real. When you buy a protection plan directly from a cruise or tour operator, the company deciding your claim is often a third party you never evaluated. You picked the cruise line because you trusted the cruise line. The claim is handled by a separate administrator working from a separate contract, and the cruise line's brand does not appear anywhere in the decision. For the cruiser who checked the box for the cruise line's own plan, the name on the denial letter may be one they have never heard of. 3 is Allianz Global Assistance, which operates through AGA Service Company and Jefferson Insurance Company, and which is the largest and most advertised name in American travel insurance. Allianz earns its place here not on a denied claim, but on a check it actually wrote. The company agreed to a $19.75 million class action settlement over allegations that it charged customers an assistance fee for non-insurance services in a way that violated California and Washington consumer protection laws. Class members could claim back up to 75% of the fees they had paid. In fairness, Allianz won the other big fight. When customers sued over denied pandemic claims, the courts largely sided with the company. In one case, Bauer versus AGA, the 8th Circuit affirmed the dismissal, upholding the policy's epidemic and foreseeable event exclusions. So the record on Allianz is two-sided, and honesty requires saying so. It paid millions over how it charged a fee, and it won over what its policy excluded. Both facts are useful. The biggest, most trusted name in the category is still a company a court ordered to refund a fee, and still a company whose exclusions held up when travelers needed them not to. For the traveler who chose the most advertised brand assuming size meant safety, the settlement is the part of the brand that was never in the ad. You have heard the 4 traps that come from how these policies are sold and what they quietly exclude. The last 2 are the ones that cost travelers the most, and the company at number 1 is the only one a state regulator actually shut down. Subscribe to the Hidden Boarding Pass and hit the notification bell. Let us finish this. 2 is the exclusions trap, and it is the most important thing in this entire video, because it is the reason the pandemic lawsuits mostly failed. A standard trip cancellation policy does not let you cancel for any reason. It pays only for a specific list of named reasons, usually illness, injury, death, or certain emergencies. It typically excludes epidemics, fear of travel, government advisories, and anything labeled known or foreseeable. The thing that lets you cancel for any reason is a separate, more expensive add-on, actually called Cancel for Any Reason. And even that usually refunds only 50 to 75% and has to be purchased within days of your first deposit. Here is the proof that this is the trap. Across the pandemic, when thousands of travelers sued because their cancellations were denied, the courts repeatedly upheld the exclusions. The insurers were right about what their own policies said. That is not a story about insurers breaking the rules. It is a story about travelers buying a word, protection, and receiving a contract named perils only. The practical version of this is worth saying clearly. A standard policy will cover you if you break your leg the week of the trip. It will generally not cover you if you simply get scared, if the State Department issues an advisory, if a hurricane is in the forecast but your flight still technically operates, or if your reason for canceling is not on the named list. Travelers learn that distinction at the worst possible time, after they have already canceled and already filed. For the traveler who assumed trip cancellation meant they could cancel for any reason and walk away whole, the contract was always going to win. One is Virginia Surety Company, and it is at the top of this list for a simple reason. It is the only company in this video that a state regulator actually forced to stop. That joint Missouri and Minnesota investigation from the opening of this video, the one about making customers opt out of insurance, was about Virginia Surety, sold through the booking site Cheap Caribbean. Regulators found the company routinely required consumers to affirmatively opt out of buying its premium travel insurance, meaning the charge was added to the booking unless the customer noticed and removed it. The consequences were real and documented. Virginia Surety had to refund affected consumers. It agreed to stop selling travel insurance in Missouri for 2 years. It paid back unpaid taxes to the state, and it paid a $100,000 fine to the Missouri State School Fund. Every other entry on this list is a lawsuit still being argued or a misunderstanding written into a contract. This one is a finished regulator action with a penalty attached. It is the clearest possible example of the checkout trap from number 6 proven and punished. For the Cheap Caribbean customer who never realized insurance had been added until they saw the charge, a state insurance department saw the same thing and called it a violation. 3 checks before you buy any travel insurance. First, read the list of covered reasons before you buy, not after the trip falls apart. Trip cancellation covers only named perils. If you want the freedom to cancel for any reason, you need the cancel for any reason add-on. You usually have to buy it within days of your first deposit, and it still only refunds part of your money. Second, never buy the checkbox at checkout. Comparison shop the policy on an independent marketplace where you can see several underwriters side by side and make sure the box was not pre-checked for you. Third, pay by credit card and check what your card already covers, because many travel rewards cards include trip cancellation and baggage protection when you pay with the card, which means you may be buying coverage you already have. The $19.75 million Allianz agreed to refund is in a class action settlement. The Generali and TripMate cases are in the court record. The Virginia Surety fine is in a Missouri Department of Insurance action, and the reason the pandemic lawsuits failed is in the rulings themselves. The coverage was never as broad as the word protection made it sound. The fine print was doing exactly what it was written to do. Share this video with someone who clicks the trip protection box at checkout without ever reading what it covers. If the hidden boarding pass has been valuable to you, please subscribe and hit that notification bell. And remember, the truth is not always on the boarding pass.